All right, all right. We're going to tackle some just awesome subjects here that hopefully you'll get just be packed with information here to help you take one nugget forward here in helping your business in marketing and sales and just lead conversion across the board. So all that to be said, the two topics we're going to run into and talk about today here with Tim is just how to improve our lead set rates. Overall. So selling your company into the home. And specifically, we're going to actually focus on online leads, taking an online lead and improving your set rates. And how do you sell your company and differentiate your company and set and improve your set rates along the way. Number two is just how you improve your issue rate. So that's selling the value of the visit or reselling the value of the visit there. Tim is going to kind of help us answer that question here from just expertise within the industry and running two of the industry's leading CRM systems here. My intro here, just to kind of give you some context. My name is Sean. I run a company called Contractor Appointments. We work in the lead generation space. So we generate high volume leads, about 1,000 leads a month on average for each of our contractors on our platform. We set appointments, or we actually generate just a raw lead for contractors. And we work difference with us is we actually work on a revenue share basis. So we just take a percentage of your marketing costs that you normally already spend right now, and we're able to get you a significant amount of leads on a monthly basis. So my guest today, which I have the pleasure of sitting here, is Tim, who leads the team over at MarketSharp here. Now also with Improve It 360. So they've combined forces with these amazing two CRM systems that are leading in the industry. Many of you guys have either heard of them or are currently on their platform right now. What's amazing in every conversation I have with Tim is that he's always bringing a significant amount of data behind what he's doing. He had a webinar yesterday. I was just talking all about the numbers you need to know. Well, he's got the context of thousands of contractors who have been using their system for years behind him. So as we go and talk about set rates within the industry and how to set more appointments, he's going to have a wealth of knowledge from not only his perspective, but also this wealth of knowledge from other contractors that are on their platform, what average set rates they're seeing, as well as just what individual companies are doing well in that process. So let's kind of dive in without further ado. So the first question I have for you, Tim, is just jumping into what in improving the set rates is the first question we're going to dive into. What have you seen people on MarketSharp and Improve It do well in improving their overall set rates? So broad question here for you initially.
All right. Well, thanks, Sean. Happy to be here and chat about this stuff. This stuff is near and dear to my heart, this whole lead conversion stuff. So happy to share some ideas and also learn some things from yourself. So the topic you picked here, and you decided to isolate on two things: improving set rates and improving issued rates. And if you don't mind, what I'd like to do is take a look at what I call the 5 primary elements of optimum lead conversion, and then take a step back and then focus on the 2 or 3 that are most relevant to today's topic. Okay, if that's okay, I'm going to kind of dive into there, and I'll do what you mentioned here, Sean. I'll share some metrics in terms of what we're finding across the board, which is kind of great because you can kind of benchmark your company against what the industry as a whole is doing. So let's talk about these 5 primary elements. I call these things the 5 sales you have to make in the lead conversion process. And some people say, 5 sales? I thought I only made 1 sale. In other words, when I sit down with a homeowner and make a presentation and they say, I'm ready to go. No, there's actually 5. And here's what they are. I'll list them briefly, then I'll share some metrics, and then we're going to go back and focus on the 2, which are the topic of today's session. The first sale your company has to make actually is to generate the inquiry to begin with. And today we're focusing on online leads. And of course, that's what Sean's company does for you. It helps you generate these inquiries. Certainly a whole bunch of other ways to generate inquiries as well. So that's sale number 1 that has to be made for your company. And you might say, that's not a sale, it's a lead. Well, what you're doing is you're selling with your marketing to get someone to raise their hand and say, I'm interested in what you got. So you got to get good at that. I think we all know that. Now, the second sale you have to make is definitely in the sweet spot of our conversation today. And what that is taking that inquiry, that spark of interest, if you want to call it that, and converting it to an appointment. And frankly, in my opinion, this is the area where things go south for most companies. So we'll talk about that, maybe talk about some things we can do to get better at that. Third sale that we have to make is we got to take that now set appointment and turn it into an issued lead. Okay, it's one thing to have an appointment. It's another thing to get that thing maybe through a confirmation process of some sort and get that lead issued to a salesperson. Okay, so that's number 3. Fourth, so you want to take that issued lead now and turn it into a demoed lead. And we are going to kind of scratch the surface on that a little bit later, because I think that's also an important thing in the conversion process. That's a little bit out of the scope of today's session, but I think it's important. And then finally, the 5th sale that we have to make is, guess what? The sale. That's where we have a demo lead. We do a great job. Our salespeople get the people to say, hey, I'm in, sign a contract, and get a job installed. So those are the 5 sales: generate inquiries, convert to appointments, convert to an issued lead, convert to a demo lead, and then convert to a sale. So let's go ahead, and I want to show you some metrics here. And what these are is these are metrics that came out of all of our MarketSharp users, which is thousands of companies throughout the country in 2020. And as you can see here, a little over 3 million leads were generated and processed through the system. And then we see something interesting start to happen. They start diminishing, don't they? In other words, about 61% of those generated inquiries turn into set appointments. Now, a point I want to make about that 61% is very important. Today, we're talking primarily about online leads. What these numbers represent is these represent across the board of all lead systems, including referrals, repeat business, which of course in many cases have 95, 100% conversion rates from inquiries to set appointments. So this is like the whole ball of wax of all the leads put together. So about 61% are converting to appointments. 78% of leads that are set are turned into issued leads. And then about 75% of issued leads are turned into demoed leads. And then about 39% of demoed leads are turned into sales, which resulted in 400 and some thousand sales here, with a total installed home improvements of about $3 billion, $600 or $700 million. So a bunch. But you know what?
Yeah.
The number I want us to focus on here is right here. This is a number many companies don't track. I think it's a number that we all should track. And what that is the difference between the inquiries that come in and installed sales. Because what that number tells you is how much has fallen through the cracks in your lead conversion process throughout. And that number is 14.1% of inquiries are turning into installed sales.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's across the board again. And again, we're talking today primarily about online leads, which are a little different. So when I mentioned generate inquiries to begin with, I used the phrase spark of interest. And again, with a referral or a repeat business, or someone walks into your showroom, guess what? Their interest level is probably pretty high. Maybe they're pretty far along the buyer's path to purchase, and maybe they're getting close to ready to pull the trigger. With online leads, different animal. And because of that, you're probably not going to convert as many. Well, you're not going to convert as many to appointments and to sales naturally. And you have to have a very, very systematic process to get them converted. And that's what we want to talk about here today. I call what we just went through here full funnel marketing. Because when you think about it, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a marketing funnel where a whole bunch goes in the front end. Then it continues to whittle down throughout the process, and you get less out the bottom end. And the goal is to widen out that funnel as you get to the bottom end with your processes, systems, technology you use, and things such as that. So full funnel marketing pretty much means you're getting good at all aspects of the funnel. You're not just good at one thing like closing sales, or maybe you're just good at generating leads. You're getting good at all these things. And that's what's going to maximize your profits and your business. So that's important. Now, back to your question. Sorry about that long introduction there, Sean.
No, that's good. Thanks, Tim.
Back to your question. What does this have to do with improving set rates? because that's the first thing that's going on after you get an inquiry. So if contractor appointment sends you a lead, your job is now to get that thing converted to an appointment. Okay. And really, I think there's two things, because of time, we'll only focus on two things here that you need to get good at this. And they both start with the letter S. One is speed and one is skill. And I think you guys know the speed part of this. With online leads, if you're not following up with these things like right now, you really got a problem, because you're just not going to get many of them converted if you don't follow up. The statistics are crazy. I'll read a couple of them. This is the result of a survey done by Ohio State University and a bunch of other organizations. They analyzed 15,000 online leads. Here's what they learned. 78% of prospects convert with the first party to make contact. So if that's true, don't be second, don't be third, don't be fourth. How about this? Leads convert 22 times more often when contact is made in 5 minutes or less. And responding to leads in the first minute can improve conversion by as much as 391%. So you got to have processes, systems in place to get after these things right away. You just do. And you're like consumers that are interested in your products. If you're online and all of a sudden something gets you to the point where you fill out a form, that's when you're most interested at that instant. Not an hour later, not a day later, not a week later, not a month later. So like these people want to be followed up with immediately. So your chances of making something out of this, if you get to them literally within seconds or minutes, go through the roof. And it could be a phone call, could be other types of communications. I think it should be a combination of a few different communications immediately when you get a lead. Okay, so with that said, let's get on to skill. And some people say, what does that mean? Well, what that means is you now have that spark of interest, right? That hand raiser. Somehow or another, you got to compel them to want to spend time with you. And oftentimes, this is a phone call. It's either an inbound phone call or an outbound phone call. So what you got to do is you got to now sell. And Sean, you mentioned it earlier. You got to sell the value of the visit here. Too often, many companies confuse this phone call with selling your product. That's not what's going on here. And this is where many companies just mess up. They don't train their people properly and script their people properly. So they're not equipped to really convince this homeowner that it's in their best interest to spend time with your company. Because when you think about it, Sean, and I'm sure you know as well as anybody on the call here, the kind of questions that come up during this phone conversation are things like, what's this going to cost me? Right? That's probably question number one that comes up. And if your people aren't equipped with the right thing to say when that question comes up and turn it around into that's a very good reason of why we want to get together with you and scope out your situation and give you the best options that we can provide. If you don't handle that properly, you're going to lose a whole bunch of leads right here. So skill is so darn important. I'm going to kind of pause here, Sean, and see if there's anything you want to add at this point.
Well, I think to your point, Tim, I think on the skill side of things here too, I think obviously on the speed side, have you seen any specifics? You don't have to name names of companies, but like, what is that? Is it like you mentioned, it's often a phone call, and phone calls are very common within the industry. Like, I got a lead, I got it delivered via email to me, and now I'll get to it, or I'll assign someone, even if it's directed into the MarketSharp or platform, and I'll assign someone to call it. First is it being automatically dialed through a third-party call center or your internal call center. Like that speed, and getting a hold of someone at their peak of interest when they just filled out a form is so crucial in today's age. We want what we want when we want it. Right now as just consumers, and but it's all those multiple forms of communication kind of being automated in today's age, because if you're manual, and you're going to get busy doing something else and get in there. What have you seen companies do well kind of to get that into that more automation side of things to
Yeah.
be able to kind of automate this process to make it repeatable and scalable.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it. What it's really got to do is your technologies all have to work together.
Mhm.
So what that means is if a lead comes in from contractors appointments, bang, we got an integration with MarketSharp with Improve It 360 that immediately in real time it goes into the CRM. And then all sorts of triggers start happening in there. First off, there's communications going out to the homeowner. Secondly, there's text messages going out to proper staff members to alert them. Beep, 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 we got a lead and you got to get to them now. Or it could be automatically set up in the call center functionality of your CRM that it moves that to the top of the list of the calling queue and you can get after them right away. So the technology part of this is a very important piece because like you mentioned, Sean, it's fine and dandy to know that you got to get to these people within literally minutes. But if you try to do this on a manual basis, you're going to pull your hair out. You're just not going to accomplish it. So the companies that convert the most online leads are the companies that have their act together with technology and they have these processes in place. So this stuff does not fall through the cracks and these people don't get contacted maybe an hour later or a day later or
Mhm.
stuff like that. I saw a report from a company, and maybe we can get a link to this company out to the group too. They did a 20-page report because they actually analyzed 466 home services companies and found out what they actually do in terms of responding to leads, in terms of how quickly and stuff like that. It's actually horrifying. And it's to the point where even the companies that say, yeah, we're good at this, when truly analyzed, they're not good at this.
Mhm.
So it's so important. And back to the skill thing, maybe take advantage of this, but one thing I always recommend is quality check your people on the phone. Don't just rely on them. First off, train them up, get them scripting and all that, but then quality check them. And what we're talking about is many of you probably use some service. There's a number of them out there, Call Source and a few more, that will record your phone calls. So when one of your people on the phone is talking to somebody, you can actually find out and check it out and see how it went. I'll never forget, I was at a conference here a number of years ago, and one of our MarketSharp clients came into the meeting room and he looked like sheepish. He looked white and so forth. I said, Scott, what's the matter? He says, oh my gosh, we just signed up for this service that records our phone calls. And I just finally listened to what some of my people are saying in trying to get appointments for us. And an example would be if you're in the window business, and somebody calls up and says, hey, I'm interested in windows, or you're following up and
Yep.
so forth. I'm interested in, these people said they're interested in windows. So you get on the phone with them and say, great, we do windows. What kind are you looking for? So this would be kind of the script that was going on in the recorded phone call. And the homeowner says, well, geez, I don't know. I don't know much about windows. How about wood windows? Oh, gee, sorry about that. We only sell vinyl windows. I'll tell you what, hang on, I'll get you the number for Pella Windows and Doors, and they sell wood windows. That's the kind of stuff, you might
Yep.
hear if you quality check this stuff. So speed and skill, so darn important when
Yep.
these inquiries come in. You got to learn how to finesse these types of leads.
Yeah, well, 100%. Well, online leads, it's funny because we did some quality checking. It was about a year ago now on one client in particular, and it, their their sales reps complained about not qualified leads, and that information was sent to the people who are setting the appointment. And therefore, the people setting the appointment started over qualifying the lead. And instead of this warm introduction of, hey, thank you so much, I appreciate you reaching out to us today about getting an estimate on your property. Like, well, let me see if we can help you. And they were the first, how they started every conversation was that, like, oh, we just want to make sure you want wood windows or you want vinyl windows, right?
Right.
No? Okay, well, we just can't help you. Click.
Yeah.
And they wondered why their set rates decreased significantly. And but then the sales reps complained about not having enough leads to run. So it's very, very important to make sure that your setting process is, yes, you need to qualify that lead to an extent. You got to make sure that you can serve them. There's still a needs analysis necessary on every individual person who raises their hand saying, I need new windows. they might not have the money, the budget, the time, their timeline might not match yours, and you might not be able to have a product that fits their needs. That needs analysis is at the beginning of the set process, and that needs to be done in the qualification to make sure that process, but you can't over qualify them at the same time. And to your point of that is your initial sale. That's your first differentiating way to differentiate yourself from the, especially online leads where they're going to get other estimates and they will receive other phone calls. How can you differentiate yourself on that phone call? That training is so important to make sure that there's clarity in what you offer that's different than the other companies that are going to call right afterwards. So
Well,
it's
you're right.
kind of a whole thing.
Yeah. One more thing I just want to add on skill. Is right now, I would figure out a way to leverage the concept of scarcity in today's marketplace. I think everybody is aware that it's tough to get certain stuff.
Yeah.
And I think many people on the call are fully aware that it's tough to get things installed for a variety of reasons quickly. So if I were you, I would figure out a way to build into my scripting there some sort of scarcity that doesn't put the fear into them that they'll never get this project done.
Yep.
But let them know that, hey, there's some things going on in the world right now, and if you're looking to get this project done in a reasonable period of time, let's get after it. I would definitely build that in your scripting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's fantastic. I think the one thing I'll add is we polled 500 homeowners, and the two most important things homeowners wanted when searching for a home improvement provider was they wanted the first thing they want is price and to be confident in the person that they're contacting and reaching out to. So that's where online reviews and all that stuff is. But your confidence you allude on their initial setting of the appointment is super important. But homeowners ultimately want to get to the price as fast as possible because they have their idea and belief of what they want. And they want to get what it's going to cost them. So that's just how we all purchase today. And if you can train your call center or whoever's managing your text message campaigns or be able to try to relieve that desire as soon as possible, that can lead to that increase in set rates there too. Let's move on to the kind of the issued rate. That second part of the sale, that second sales in that process is kind of going back to now we've set the appointment. The appointment setter set a date and time for you to be out there. The next step is for you to actually issue that to a sales rep, confirm that appointment, and then issue it to a sales rep. Often companies, this issue rate here is there's a fall off from they didn't confirm a second time, or now they changed their mind, they canceled, all that stuff. How, Tim, in your opinion here, what's the normal issued rate that you see? I'd say overall, and we'll kind of go back to that slide here too, and just with online leads, if you've seen any kind of normals on the issued rate side of things.
Yeah, as far as the issued rate, I think the numbers that I shared a bit ago have that about 75 to 80% is a typical issued rate of set leads. And that number, frankly, doesn't vary as much with online leads as the set rate does.
Yep.
It remains fairly consistent with leads, and there's just a number of things you can do to make sure that sales or these leads get issued at the highest rate possible. And one thing you mentioned it just a few minutes ago, Sean, is many companies put their leads through a confirmation process. Some don't, but many do. And the one thing you can do to really mess up your issued rate is do what you mentioned a bit ago, Sean, is just overqualify people. That's really something that I see go on a fair amount, is just grilling people to death where they talk themselves out of this. So that's the one thing I think, if I'm just going to identify one thing that we could do to get our issued rate up, is really think through our confirmation process, whether it's the phone call or whether it's other types of communications or a combination of all of them. But really think that through. And, I want to move on to one more metric here, and that's the demo rate. So you got the issued rate, and then you got a demo rate, which is about 75% of issued leads. So what that means is 75% of the leads that do get issued to salespeople went through the confirmation process, don't demo for a variety of reasons. And that's also an issue where we lose a lot of business. And my suggestion there is if you're not doing so, you should embark on what I call a lead warming campaign. In other words, when an appointment gets set and when it gets issued, do something with that homeowner to warm them up before the salesperson arrives. And if you do so, you're going to get less no-shows, less appointment cancellations, and things such as that. So lead warming can be as simple as various communications, text messaging, emails, picture the salesperson that's going to come and see them, on an email or on a direct mail letter or with text messaging, maybe with some links to some online reviews, maybe a consumer guide of some sort in PDF format that you can get to them. And if you do that, all of a sudden you're going to see your demo rates go higher, because what that is doing is it's setting another great first impression for your company. And what you want is you want to be welcomed at the door, with open arms rather than folded arms, because people are a little unsure about home improvement contractors. And if you'll do these little things to separate yourself from the crowd, so to speak, your demo rate's going to go up along with your issued rate, your set rate, and so forth and so on.
Absolutely. I think the interesting thing that I've seen and noticed within the industry is obviously we focus a lot on sales, on the sales process, right? And the sales methodology of how to be able to go through needs analysis and have a very systemized sales process. But in my opinion, I think that sales process actually is moved much further forward in that funnel process, right? That and being able to share the value of the visit, making sure that homeowner understands the clear value your company is going to provide them, even when they go out there and give them an estimate. And we're going to make it so simple and easy, and they're going to get exactly what they want, from our company. And then, just like you mentioned, following up with emails and text messages, reinforcing the value that you're going to provide them at that estimate. Even if it is that we're going to give you an exact price on what your dream and making your dream a reality by installing, and improving your home and your bathrooms, or, and replacing your bath, or, installing these new windows. We talk about sales as a very emotional process. You need to key into those needs and those desires that a homeowner has. Well, if you can learn those on the beginning of your conversation and the setting process, and make sure you're playing to those values and you're sharing the value that you have in relation to what they're actually looking to achieve on the front end, you can increase those set rates and issued rates because people are anticipating your appointment. And I think with online leads, and Tim, being able to look at all the third-party leads that you get in the door, you're going to be in direct competition with other companies doing, saying similar things as you. So being extremely differentiated from those other companies by creating, an email and sending a picture of the sales, the estimator, those are all creating confidence in who's coming out to your door here as well. So I think it's just it's an interesting way of that the sales process is very much on the first setting and and in the issuing of the appointment and building homeowners' confidence that you are the solution for their problem.
Well, you're right. I heard something once that has stuck with me, and I think it holds true throughout this whole process we've discussed here today.
Mm-hmm.
And what that is the Better Business Bureau. And what they did is they surveyed homeowners and asked them what's their biggest consumer complaint with contractors. And it's very simple. It's lack of communication. So it's our job to get our communications in order throughout this whole process. So the homeowner just feels totally comfortable, doesn't create friction, and you just smooth them through this whole full funnel marketing process that we get them through. So lack of communication, you really got to leverage technology nowadays and let it be a helping hand to make sure all this stuff gets done. And you can put it all on cruise control, fortunately, nowadays. Back in the day, you couldn't do that. You had to do all this stuff manually. But nowadays, no excuse for not having all this stuff working for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, there's lots of texting and email and all the automation that can obviously integrate with MarketSharp and improve it. And the companies we see have the best set rates and the best issued rates, and it's full funnel that they've done a really good job with, are leveraging pieces of technology to be able to solve the communication with the homeowner and creating clarity through that process of their buyer's journey, that as well. So the one last piece I'll kind of throw out to you that we actually did internally just with a couple clients and a couple markets is that I would encourage everyone to go, and we talk about how do you improve your set rate. Well, you should go fill out a form and see what other people are doing to get their appointments set. Find out what other people are doing in your market. Fill out a form on Home Advisor as a homeowner, and see what other companies are doing. And then you keep making sure that you are doing something better that's differentiating yourself there too. I think secret shopping in an industry it's understanding the landscape of where everyone else is at, into staying above and beyond that. So that's what I have here for you today. If you have additional questions that have been coming up here, we'll respond to those via email. But I just want to thank you so much, Tim, for jumping on the webinar here for us and sharing just your knowledge with us across the board. If you've got more questions for Tim, where can people find you and kind of reach out to you?
Yeah, they can reach us at just MarketSharp.com. Go check out what we got going on there. If they'd like to speak to me directly with an email, it's just Tim@MarketSharp.com. And happy to engage conversation with anybody about anything in the industry. It's fun stuff.
But yeah, thank you again, Tim.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, everybody.